It's a huge day for our police service as well as our community. I think it's really important that we remember our fallen, and we had two officers in our history, our proud history, Constable Fred Lefebvre in 1923 and Constable Len Slater in 1973, paid the ultimate sacrifice when they were murdered in the line of duty, protecting the rights and freedoms of others. So this dedication ceremony, I think, will serve as an enduring reminder of the Lefebvre and Slater sacrifices, not just the officers, but the families of those fallen officers. And I wanted to thank Mayor McDonald and Council, as well as Jerry Knox, Dave Linke, and city staff for making this all happen today, and certainly recognize Detective Constable Greg McClenahan for his leadership in bringing this to our attention through chain of command and making this happen today. Everybody was fully behind it, the North Bay Police Association, the North Bay Police Services Board, Mayor and Council, and city staff. So I think it's a big day again, not just for our police service, but for our community and the families of our two fallen officers.
Looking at it today, I mean, so many years have gone by since we lost both those officers, but it seems the pain and recognition seems to be almost like it was yesterday.
Yeah, and I think in part, and it was mentioned briefly during one of the presentations, we do a lot better job now of taking care of our families, of our fallen officers, and providing supports for them that we did many years ago. So yeah, I can't imagine the pain and anguish and suffering that these two families went through. You heard both were fathers of young children, married. They left families and friends behind them, and really in two senseless acts of violence. One gunned down by Leo Rogers when he was attempting to apprehend him, and the other coming to the aid of a fellow officer when Constable McCourt was wounded back in 1973. So,
when you pay tribute and honor to these folks, what do you hear from the service, the men and women that have to fill those shoes day in and day out?
You know what? I think this is really good for our members. They selflessly serve this community and often put themselves in harm's way and at personal risk, protecting the rights and freedoms of others. So they absolutely get that. But a day like today, it brings us all together. It does provide us with an opportunity to grieve and show us support for the loved ones who are left behind. And as I mentioned earlier, policing is very much a family, and families come together when tragedy strikes, and that's why events like today, the annual police memorials that we have in Toronto and Ottawa, and police funerals are very important to our members.
What today would have meant, he would have been proud. He probably the time-wise, like why did it take so long type of thing, but other than that, he would have been proud of his fellow colleagues getting together and had providing this day to honor both him and Fred Lefebvre. My family, we're proud of him. We're glad that some of his grandchildren are able to be part of the ceremonies to show them who he was and to let them talk to other, like they don't know him from Adam, and to sit there and know who he was so they can go back to their kids, their friends, and say, my grandfather was a police officer, and maybe someday they might go on his tracks, or like follow his footsteps. So it's an honor.
It was a very hard evening to get through, to understand that your father had been killed in the line of duty. But then you departed North Bay. Give me an idea as to what life was like after that.
Life was really upside down. I couldn't believe it. My grandfather and my uncle wanted to go to the North Bay Police Department to get more answers, and I remember wanting to go with them, and they didn't want me to go, and to me it was kind of like I needed answers too, because it was a dream. I didn't really believe things were going on. When I walked into the Chief Weatherspoon's office and then I seen his hat on the rack behind him, that's when reality kind of set in for me. And I still couldn't believe it. But everything I remember going to my hockey game And I remember all my fellow classmates filling out a sympathy card for what had happened, and my schoolmates at school, and how we were moving, and my classmates couldn't believe that I was going to be leaving them. Stuff like that. The police escort from North Bay to Bracebridge, going through 2 ceremonies. The salute, the brotherhood of salutes from every town between North Bay and Bracebridge, of all the police officers lining against the side of the road and saluting. And the song that I hate the most is Amazing Grace, because I heard it so many times and it brought back so many memories. But just to get dragged and to find out about Christmas presents that were bought for you and then given to you afterwards was really hard. That was really hard.